Hey guys, this is Carl from Thinkful. I'm here with Thomas today, and we're going to walk through the Angular app we're building in this guide.
Hello, my name's Thomas. I'm a Thinkful mentor here. Love the job, it's brilliant, great company, and you may be able to hear my dog in the background at some point during this, just for a little bit of extra adventure.
Perfect. So
Cool.
let's turn on the screen sharing.
Hello?
Yeah, let's turn on
So,
the screen sharing on your end.
okay, is it not on? Oh, right, 1 second.
Perfect.
Okay, so here we go. This is a blank slate of the application that you may have seen if you've been through the tutorial.
So yeah, on the left-hand side you have your editor, and on the right-hand side you have your browser with the console open.
That's it. So first things first, making sure that we've got these libraries loaded. We've got the jQuery library just for good measure in case we want to get anything else in there, and then we have the Angular library straight after. Okie
Perfect.
dokie?
Yep.
Yeah. So we can see, refreshing the page, just having a quick look, and just to make sure that they are there, they're loading in just fine. Nice. I've got them loaded here at the lib folder, and then next, moving on. So we also have this ng app. You may be able to see that. Is that
Yep.
nice and clear for everyone?
Yeah, that's
Big enough?
perfect. That's perfect.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So we've got this ng app, which is sort of explaining the scope of our application, so to speak, and we can start putting code inside it, all Angular-fied, which is very, very nice. So let's do some of that. But first, let's start with the JavaScript file. So we're going to have to move this one in first.
Perfect. So that basically just connects our app.js.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
We've
perfect.
got Angular global that's given to us by the library, and then we're creating a module. We're calling our module email app, and then we're just going to get this email app and put it in here.
And so those two need to match, correct?
That's right. This string needs to be exactly the same as this string.
Okay, perfect.
So now the JavaScript that's associated with this module here has access to all of the code in the background, and you may be able to hear my dog. I'm not too sure.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Extra adventure, I love it.
Yeah, she doesn't know who I'm talking to. She's a little bit confused, bless her. But anyway, moving on. Quiet now, Ziggy. Her name's Ziggy, by the way. Um, right, so let's just move our header in so we've got something to look pretty, and we're not just looking at a blank screen. I haven't got any auto-reloading set up, by the way, but so I'll just manually refresh. And you can see no errors so far. All is looking cozy.
And so you basically just included some basic HTML in there. There's nothing fancy here, and all the styling is just being applied straight from the CSS that's
Yeah,
already in there in the app, which we're not going to cover here because we're just going to focus on the Angular portion.
that's it. We've already got it nice and styled up, so we've just got something to look at instead of a blank screen. Cool. So first things first, let's load up the config. Now, this is going to break because I'm using this root provider here. This is a basic dependency injection. Okay, so we may see an error on the console when I refresh the page now. Just going to save it first. And yeah, we've got this error.
So we
Failed.
basically need to include it, right? The root provider was removed from Angular core a few versions back.
That's right. Yeah. It used to be there, but now it's moved. So we need to make sure that we've got this Angular root library, which you can get from the website, making sure that this is loaded again above our app.js, which is connecting all together, and that the versions are both exactly the same between Angular and the Angular root.
Right, and we can
So
have a
just save
different
that.
version for jQuery. That's not a problem at all.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay. So that seems to not have quite loaded properly. Okay, so cannot read the module of undefined. We need to load in the root here as well. Remember that?
Right.
There's also this dependency.
Right. So basically, first we add the
Yeah,
library so that it's loaded and it's available to us, and then we add it as a dependency after the module is loaded in between those brackets, basically as part of the array.
that's right. So just having a look. Now it's saying cannot read property module of undefined. I may have just put those in the wrong order.
Right. Right there. Perfect.
Trying to fix an error that I didn't realize. There we go. So yeah, all working. We've got the root provider. Nice.
And so that's a really good point, I think, to go back inside index.html. The order in which you load your files is very important. If not, you may encounter the same error we just did.
Yeah. I was thinking that because that had an error in the console, I thought that it might be to do with the order of these libraries being loaded. Oh my word! It wasn't. It was to do with something else. Shortcut's just failing on me there. Anyway, moving on. So now we can use this to set up some routes. But before we do that, we should probably have a look at controllers, I guess, right?
Right.
So we've got a little bit of a controller set up here. This has got the same angular.module name
that we saw earlier.
Before.
Yep, that makes sense.
That's right. Yep. And then we've given it a name of email controller. Okay. This won't do much at the moment, but we best make it available so that we can use it. As we're kind of diving in at the deep end and doing it all at once.
Okay, perfect. So we just need to include that file inside our index.html.
Like so.
Right.
Make sure there's no errors. All good. Now we can configure a route for it. So let's do that. And also use strict just for security reasons.
What does use strict do?
So use strict is it's for ECMAScript. You may have heard of the different versions of JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, we used to have ECMAScript 3, but these days it's mainly ECMAScript 6. And in the future, we're going to have ECMAScript 6. Sorry, it's ECMAScript 5 right now. And in the future, we're going to have ECMAScript 6. So to make sure that our code that we're writing these days is going to still work in the future, one thing that we can do is set this use strict. So it's going to give us some forward compatibility.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
And another thing that's even more important is the security. This gives us some extra security, stops people from being able to mess with our website so easily.
Okay, awesome. So definitely include that inside your config.
Definitely, yeah, really important. Cool. Okay, so we're going to use this root provider that we've just injected here, using Angular's nice dependency injection. So this first little block of code, the when, this is going to be a route for inbox, which you can see has actually been loaded automatically for us. Should probably just show you that's not needed. And we're also going to make sure that if the route is not inbox, we're going to redirect to the inbox, okay?
So that would be like our default route, basically, whenever we visit the homepage of this fictitious email application.
Yeah, that's it. So this default route is going to load in this view. It's going to assign this controller to it, and it's going to give it this alias. Okay. Okay. So here's the controller that we saw before, using strict again, and we're going to set a little title, just saying loading. Okay. Okay. Here's the view. I've got it in this views folder over here on the left. You might not be able to see that.
Yeah, we see it.
Cool. All right. So this has just got some basic HTML in it.
I see. And then we're loading the title. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. We're loading this title in from the view. You see we've got inbox.title. This all lines up with this .title here, and this refers to inbox, and that has been configured using this controller as inbox.
Perfect. Okay.
3 things working together there. So let's refresh it, see how it's going. And that has not worked. So this should be redirecting us to the inbox, but it isn't.
What if you remove the # / at the end?
The # / at the end of what?
Inside the localhost 8080.
I don't think that should really make a difference. Okay. I have a feeling this may be to do with the fact that we haven't included ngView. Okay? Okay. So this is another requirement that's a part of the HTML. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
using this
right,
ngView.
right.
Yeah. I've got this happening again. One of my shortcuts is definitely playing up here. I'm not very happy with that. There we go. So I've just uncommented this, and we've got a div here. The important thing is this attribute, ngView. Okay?
Right, and so it doesn't need to be wrapped inside this main class main, or it doesn't need to have this class flex. All that matters is div ngView, correct?
Yeah. We've basically got that for some nice styling that we could apply.
Yeah. And for anybody that's familiar with Rails, I think that's very similar to the Rails yield statement that you might find throughout if you've ever used Ruby on Rails before.
That's interesting. Good to know. Cool. All right. So we can see that when I refresh the page now, it actually changed the route, which is good, but it's still not showing the template that we're expecting. But we can have a look in this panel here. We can see that this has added this this view here, but the inbox title hasn't quite worked as we expected. I'll tell you exactly why this is. It's because I've changed the wrong controller. I was changing the email controller instead of the inbox controller. Silly me.
Good catch.
Right. Yeah. They're both pretty much identical, so there's at least some excuse. So this is going to work. I'm going to refresh, and nope, still nothing. Doing well. So this should be saying my inbox here right now.
And there it is.
The HTML thinks it is, but
so it's probably the styles.
There might be something happening with the styles here.
Yeah. So go to CSS and comment out all the CSS.
Okay, we can just remove the CSS from here, actually.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, just comment it out.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
We've got it working. Good call. So we're going to have to be stuck with the default HTML styles now, but never mind.
We can add them back later.
Yeah, that's it. Cool. All right. So next thing would be to work with Angular factories.
So what is a factory?
So it's kind of it can do anything really. It's just like this middleman bit of JavaScript that you can use to. A lot of people use it for HTTP calls, like if they're trying to contact the back server.
So like to gather some data.
A good way to do it. Yeah. If you're familiar with any other Java's programming languages, they often have classes or specifically singletons. That's kind of what a factory is. I've included the wrong one again. Make sure I get the right one. Inbox we're going for. So let's have a look at it instead of talking about it. So you just declare it with the same Angular module, make sure that that's the same word or whatever module we're using. And then we've given this factory by using the angular.factory, just chained onto the end here.
Right.
Let me just change my indentation. This is a 2 and not a 4. And yeah, we've called this one inbox factory. Okay.
Yeah.
And this isn't doing anything at the moment, but we'll just make sure that it's all working first. One step at a time, always a good way to go. And we can close this email one, and we can just check that it's working here first. Right.
So you just included it inside the inbox controller, which is where you are right now, and you're passing it in and just console logging it.
That's right. Yep. So I've just got my inbox factory. It's saying it's undefined though.
Probably because it returns nothing.
There we go. So let's make it return something.
Right.
A good way to go is making it return an exports object.
Right.
This is just so we can be clear about things that we want to protect inside it and things that we want to expose. So yeah, we need to have some return statement in the factory. Refresh the page again, and we can see there's the object.
Perfect.
If I add this messages array to the exports,
it should be in there.
There we go. Perfect. Yep. Cool. So so this factory isn't doing too much on its own at the moment, but we can create a method on it first. You may see this in the tutorial. This is the first one that we create. And what we're going to do is we're going to make that inbox list out all of the different. Oops, crikey! You've got everything going off at the moment. There's an error with the calendar. That's good. Ignore. Mac, it just works. Right, anyway. So, yeah, here we go. We've got the get messages function, and this is going to basically get a list of our inbox. But we don't have a real backend. We're just going to use this JSON data. Here we can see at JSON emails.json.
Right, and so in another world, we would basically be getting this from a real backend.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you can see here, we're making the HTTP call to get JSON emails.json, but this is where we would put a real backend in the future. Yeah?
Yeah.
So if we change that, we can see we've got access to the get messages, and now we can use it, I guess.
Yeah, we can throw a debugger.
Building it up step at a time. True, yeah. What would be nice is if we can use this success method. So if you're familiar with promises, this is the HTTP version of a promises. Here we go, there's your debugger.
Perfect.
We'll refresh. Undefined is not a function. That's because I was supposed to do get messages.
That's success. Yeah.
HTTP is not defined.
Dependency
So here we go, we've got to do the injection again.
Angular is very strict with extra commas.
It's common function. This is just JavaScript, hey. You've got to make sure that this is right for the functions. Anyway, yeah, here we go. We've got a little debugger showing up right where we want it. We can have a look at the local variables. We've got this data here. Yep. And you can see it's the same data here.
Perfect, and that's
we've got access to all of those emails.
And those are emails from the emails.json, basically.
Perfect. Yep, that's the one. But in the full scope of this application, we're not going to be doing this through the the controller. We're going to be using something more interesting called a directive. I'm going to include that now. Okay. So here's the directive, inbox directive, this one.
Right.
Similar to a factory, you just use the word directive and give it a name.
Okay.
And we can see that this directive can be created or used by specifying just a custom element of inbox. Now,
That's
directives
really
are a little
clean.
bit more... Pardon?
That's really clean.
It is really clean, hey. It's the same name here, inbox and inbox.
Right.
So another thing, directives are a little bit more strict than factories. With factories, you can pretty much return whatever you want. You see how we're returning an object here?
Yeah.
You can return anything. Factories, they have a sort of a domain-specific language, a sort of convention that you need to follow, which is returning an object, and then we've got a number of special properties that we can use. So we'll just include a bunch of them.
Right, and we go into a bit more details of, in the guide.
Yeah, skimming through it here. So I'll just play that. So here we've got a restrict. This is telling us that we can use it as either a custom element or a custom attribute. This is the template that we're going to be using to load it in, and this is the controller. And you can see that we've injected this inbox factory, same as we have on this controller, where we inject the inbox factory, and we can use it in the same way. So you can see that this is how we're going to use it in the future.
Can you show us the inbox template, please?
Yep, sure. 1 second. So, oh, that's the view. Here we go. It's this one here. Not doing a lot at the moment.
But it's basically, it's plain HTML. There's nothing fancy happening here, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, got it again. So let's make the top bit work. So what we'll need here is this expression of inbox messages and inbox search, but we don't need inbox search here. So close this one. Let's create a quick array of messages. And also inside the, we do need that template because we need to use the directive.
Right, so by you adding this to inbox.html, you're basically loading in the directive, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So I'll just show you that down there. Okay. This is the controller. Refresh the page. And you can see that it's now displaying you have no messages.
Right, and this is coming from the directives template.
Exactly. You see how up here it's got you have.
Right.
It's using the checking to see if there's any messages, and then displaying the number of messages if there are a number of messages, or displaying the word no if there's no messages, using this and or syntax.
Perfect.
Rightio.
Yep.
So carrying on. Now we don't need any of this stuff in the controller. Let's just get rid of all that, and we can just carry on moving through this. So next thing, we're creating a function which is goToMessage. Or in fact, no, let's do this one first. The getMessages. What this is going to do is it's going to do the same thing that we had in the controller a minute ago.
Right.
Remember we did invox.getMessages?
Yeah.
But instead, we're going to use it inside our directive. We're going to use the then, and then we're going to use this function, then function, to set the messages. But because we're using this messages, and this refers to this controller function here, we have to use Angular bind to bind this function to this, okay, to make sure that this and this are the same. Another way of doing it might be, some people do this.
Or this equals that. Or...
Yeah, this equals control, and then you could just get rid of the whole bind thing and just use that there. But we don't need to do that. We've got a little bind. Just this. So here we go. So this that should have done something. Just make sure that that's being run. Now it is running this function, and it has got that data, but it's not being displayed for some reason.
Go to the template. Oh, I see, but we should get the length.
Yeah, exactly. We should at least have this here. So we've got export messages. I think it might be to do with this here.
Right.
So this is our factory, and we just need to make sure that our factory is actually resolving the data correctly. This is a promise convention, okay? At the moment, it is working because HTTP also returns a promise, but we're going to take more control of this. We're going to sort of grab it by the gonads and make sure that we use it properly. So here we've set the success function inside the factory, and using this exports again, we're going to set the messages on the exports and also resolve the messages into this then function here. So now that should work. Let's have a go. And it's saying queue is not defined, and this is in the factory. That's because I need to make sure that I inject it. There we go. We have 4 messages, but we're not displaying any.
So can we go back to that file, to
the factory?
Yeah, further down in the factory. And so what we're doing in between line 26 and 37 is basically we're creating a function called getMessages that's getting exported, right? And then we're creating a deferred object called deferred, right? And then we're saying, okay, make a call to this endpoint, which is JSON/email.json. And then whenever you get this response, add that to the messages array, which is defined on line 13. So get that data and put it there. And then resolve the promise with that data as well.
Yep, that's it.
And if there's error, right, and if there's an error, just reject the promise.
That's it, yeah. So it's setting the data onto the messages or the inbox factory. Because remember, when we use this inbox factory, we export this exports, and it has the property of messages.
Right.
So now if we use this inbox factory from somewhere else in our project, such as in this directive here, you can see that on the then callback, we access the inbox factory and get the messages here.
Right.
Okay.
So we basically access the messages once that promise has been fulfilled.
Precisely. And we do actually also resolve it, which we don't necessarily need to do here. It would still work if we don't. See, but
oh, nice.
It's just a good practice to resolve anyway. It means that we can also access the same messages from here.
Right.
But we don't need to. Anyway, So moving on, let's have a look more at this directive code. So closing the div, now we've got a list of messages. I'm just going to get rid of all of these comments. So there's quite a lot happening here. Checking the inbox length, and if there's no length, so if the length is 0, that's going to be false. And we do an ng show that's looking to see if it's true or not. So if length becomes true, then we do show. Otherwise, we're showing there's no messages.
Right, and
or the opposite, because we've got a little
exclamation point. And so here, ng show is a Angular directive that's provided, right? It's like a convenience directive.
Precisely, yeah.
And we could also use ng hide and remove the exclamation point if we wanted to.
Yeah. Let's do a quick show. So this is it all working, and then yeah, we can just change that to hide, remove the exclamation point,
and it should all be the same.
Yeah, they just do the opposite of each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. This ng repeat is just going to repeat over the messages, and it's going to apply a filter. And this filter is what we get from this inbox.search, which we've set up here in this input. So if I change this to say ticket, you can see it searches on the first one.
Right.
Filters on that. Another one might be Travis. So if I change it to Travis, you can see it's filtering on that. Very convenient.
And so I think what's really interesting here is that on line 17, under inbox.messages, we're using inbox.messages because of the controller as that we defined earlier, correct?
That's it, yeah.
And then on the filter, that we're running, notice that we're passing it an object with the key of from and the value of inbox.search. And so that allows us to search for a given field within that array of objects. And the array of objects being the emails that are here, basically, that we get from the data. And
you see these each have a from property, so we're searching over that.
And we can change that to subject too if we wanted to, correct?
Yeah, that's it. So right now, see this one has an ID of this. Right. If we do this search here, that's not going to work. It's searching specifically on this from. And yeah, like you say, if we wanted to change it to the subject, you could search on this subject information. It's very nice. Right, moving on. We display the message name. This is like all of the message details, because when we iterate through, these get transformed into this message variable or model. So we use the from date, then we use the date, and we give it another filter here on the date, so we can format the date nicely.
Nice.
If you look at the date here, yeah.
And that filter is native to Angular.
Yeah, because this is a date time object.
Right.
But obviously we're not displaying it like that. That's not going to be useful for anyone.
Right.
And yeah, one of the many filters that comes with Angular. Very nice.
And I think one other thing that's cool to mention here is that on line 9, where we have inbox.search, and we have that also in the filter on line 18, I don't think that inbox.search exists anywhere else. It's just present here in this view, and Angular's two-way binding makes so that whenever you update that value, it updates the ng model, which then performs the search right away.
That's right, yeah. It's the ng model that's creating it for us. Very hefty. Cool. So let's add those styles back in, hey? Let me see if I can get them back. No. Where is it? It's in CSS.
CSS, and I have no clue what it's called. It's probably called main.css, style.css. And this is like CSS Zen Garden, huh?
Yeah. There we go. That's much nicer, hey? Crikey. Okay. So right now these buttons aren't going to do much.
Right. They don't do anything, right?
Yep. You can see that what they should be doing is ng click here. This is the read button and this is the delete button. Read and delete. This one has the message go to messages, and this one has delete messages. Go to message, we're just going to skip go to message for a minute, and we're going to look at delete message, because go to message requires another controller and another view. So we're looking at delete message. All it's doing is it's sort of delegating the delete function into the inbox factory again. So we're just sort of passing on the responsibility there. And we can just have a look at that function inside the factory. This is the factory again. You can see that it sets this to messages, splices it, and that's all. It just splices the message. So if I refresh the page now, we can see that because of the two-way binding, it will actually delete that message for us. All of them just deleted, everything updated. We didn't need to do anything else. Super
Nice.
tasty, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't worry, they haven't gone. It's all stored in the JSON. They'll come back again when we refresh.
So it's basically, it just gets removed from memory from the JSON data dump that we loaded, basically.
Yep, that's it. Very, very nice. I'll just close this controller, it's not doing much. So next, we will probably need to think about what happens when we click read, because right now it doesn't do anything.
Right.
So let's add this other route. Same story as before, but this time we're going to use all of the things for the email. I'll just move them all up together. So again, that's a controller, a factory, and a directive, all associated with the email. And this is the go-to message function that we don't have enabled at the moment. So let's just enable it. And this is going to log out the email ID that we click, and it also wants to use this location to change the path,
Right.
and that's how we change routes. But as we haven't really been through everything else yet, let's just make sure that that method's being called first. Click read, read, read. Doesn't seem to want to. I have a feeling that this might need to be also mapped inside the directive. There we go.
Yep.
Page. Yep, there we go. It's printing out in the log statement at the bottom there. Perfect. Okay, so now we're ready to get everything set up. So first things first, the controller, which is the email controller. That's all looking nice, nothing fancy there. We can just get rid of that. Same as before. The factory. This one has another export statement, same as before.
Same convention, basically.
Yeah, that's it. This time, we're going to have a method that gets the actual message. So we'll just use that one first. We can have a look at this in a minute, but first we'll just see it working. And then we have the template. That's here. Let's just get rid of these comments. Did I just delete something that I shouldn't have? No?
No, you're fine.
Yep, okay. And an email directive, same as before. The controller has syntax to get the title and a new directive, custom element. Very nice. Let's have a look. And here it is. Use strict again. Now we must make sure that we do all of these things as before. So let's just have it like this for the time being. No functionality. We'll just see if it's working. Read. Oh, make sure that the inbox factory does actually take us where we want to go. Has it gone here?
There you go. So that should change the location as well.
Yep, so it's going to change the location to inbox email ID.
Yeah. And then we need to uncomment line 8 to add the dependency.
Well spotted.
Yeah, and then perfect.
Right, and then in the app, you see this is the same route that we had in the path.
Right.
Inbox email, and then that ID. This is the dynamic ID with the, what's it, a colon?
Yeah, yeah.
Just refresh the page again. And you see how it's changed the URL now and given us the ID.
Perfect.
Nice. Yep, cool.
So now we just need to display the data.
That's it. So in here, we've got a message. and we have a get messages. So we're going to use the email factory this time, using that get message function that we had just here. Similar story as before, HTTP get, taking that params. This params here is passed in through the directive here, these root params. So root params is another thing that we've had to inject into this controller, and that is going to contain that ID that's here in the URL at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's just close this inbox. Email factory, yeah, it takes the params, checks to see if there's an ID on the params, and then uses this ID inside the GET request. So you can see in the JSON here.
Root params passes in not just the ID, but an entire object, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. This is a full object of any number of params. We could
it's
go in here.
And it's getting ID because we use :ID, right?
Yeah. So if I've just created a new one here for fun called something else.
Right.
If I go into this email factory here, we can just clog the params here. I'm going to read, and that hasn't actually worked. That'll work in a minute. So email directive. I have a feeling that no, that should all be fine. Email factory, get messages.
Right. Is it because that route right now it's sending you to inbox/ID, but that route no longer exists, so you need to do, yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah, silly me. Look. That
should work. Yeah.
Yep. So I've just made it optional, and you can see that this is all broken because Q isn't defined, but we're looking at the options here. This is that parameter, root params, and we've got this something else property along with the thing. But I'm just going to undo that because I only did that for an example purposes.
Yeah, but basically you can pass any number of parameters, and you name them here at your route level, and then the route params allows you to access their values.
Nicely. Don't need the root params there. Okay, so that's no more errors. We're resolving the data again.
Mm-hmm.
Email directive. So let's start using this get messages. Get messages was returning a promise, so we need to use the .then method again. Similar trick with .bind because we're using this and this here. So we can just do that. That should display something. Just implement it all. Now, I have a feeling that the reason that this isn't working is because we've commented out all of the Emacs templates.
Yeah, so the template is empty. There you go.
Comment it all.
So that file right here is the email template that is being used for the inbox.
Yeah, and you see we have a new error. This is another library that we need to use because it's saying that something is unsafe. You see this SCE object here?
Yeah.
This is due to this here, another thing that comes pre-bundled with Angular that we've used, but this isn't actually part of the core library anymore. This is just saying that we're using some raw HTML and we want to display it. So we need to change our index for the final library. Check it right at the top again.
Oh, sorry about the noise.
It's okay, yeah, sorry about my sister was asking me what I wanted for lunch a minute ago. if you hold that. Okay. So this is saying that there's some unsafe content still that we're trying to use. I'm not entirely sure where that was supposed to be set in this thing.
Let's see what the error says. Try commenting that out.
Yeah, let's just comment it out.
and just see if the error persists.
It's definitely to do with the.
The
I know what it is. So every time that you include one of these libraries, you have to remember
the
to
dependency
go into
injection.
the app and set it as a dependency for the application.
Right. And that's definitely going to trip you up many times. Like this exact problem happens to me all the time.
Yeah. It catches me out a lot as well, and it catches a lot of people out. Things like animation, you can be trying to debug some animation for an hour just to realize that, oh, I didn't specify the dependency. Yes, quite frustrating, but you just learn to deal with it with Angular, unless you're doing a live recording, and then you just forget completely. Right, anyway, so this is just displaying all the data, same as before, using some nice little tricks inside here, ng-click, making sure that the reply is there, and so on and so forth. Lots of things happening to display this data. If we click back, it takes us back, can read a different one.
That's the Travis
Updates
CI
on the
one.
code, see.
It's great.
Huh? Yeah, very nice. Cool, alright. We'll get rid of these params now. And let's set up the reply so that does something.
So we're almost done here.
Yeah, that's it, looking swell actually. And here's the reply function. But this is where something interesting is going, okay? So when we click read and we click reply, we want to, let's just enable all this first. Because we want to actually make some displays change. Yeah, we need to do more with the factory. No, directive. Here, this is the timeout. So you see, this has opened up this this extra view at the bottom and focused it for us. And that is down here with this ng show reply. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we click, this changes reply to not reply, basically just toggling it.
So if it's true, it makes it false. If it's false, it makes it true, and it's false by default.
Precisely. Yep, that's it. So this is the right one. Now this is the factory email directive. Yeah, we're sort of watching. This is something that's quite tricky. A watch function. So this is to look on the. Well, this is, for a start, we're inside a link function, which is again runs just after a controller, and you can get the same things passed in as you would with a controller, but they have a specific order. So the scope is always first, then elements, then attributes. Scope here, same as a normal scope up there. Onside the scope, remember we have this. Got too many things here. We have this reply. Yeah, we have the reply value on the scope. So we're just going to watch this reply value. We're going to tell our link function that we want to check to see what it's doing with this scope watch. And every time it changes, we're going to execute this callback function here, which is going to get passed to it the new value and the old value. Then we check to see if they're different. If they're exactly the same, then we just abort early. But if we've got a new value, if it's changed, so if it's been set from true to false or false to true, we're using the Angular version of timeout instead of the normal global set timeout. This is good for testing purposes, so you can lock it or stub it if you want to, instead of having to deal with the globals. And then we just get the text area, which is this text area here, this thing, and we just focus it, just so that, because if you remember when I clicked reply, it focused it automatically for me. So that's all that's doing.
Perfect.
Right. Okay, and we also have this reply method here. So this is different to the normal reply function because this is going to exist on email. So inside the directive, we'll have also email.reply, which is here. Email.reply. So when we click send on here, it's going to execute this email.reply function. Whoops, wrong thing. Email.reply function, right. And that just again delegates it to the email factory, exports email.reply, and here we would obviously hit the back end here, but we're just going to alert for the time being. So I'll just refresh because I've only just commented them in. Click reply, something's gone wrong. Click reply, there we go. Type in a message, blah, 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 or... send, and then we get this
Lovely
message. Beautiful, hey. I think that is everything.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it all.
There was one little final thing, which is regarding debugging.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just this little run function, just a nice little practice to follow. You can listen to events. So you remember how each controller and each directive has a scope? Well, the whole application also has a root scope that's according to this ng app here at the top. So we're just using this root scope, and we're saying that on the root change error, we want to run this function just so we can see if there's any problems and try and figure out what they are. But that's not going to do anything right now.
And that's really helpful when you're coding in Angular, because oftentimes you'll have errors, and tracing back the source of the error can be very difficult. And so having this little convenience function there really helps you when you're developing your apps.
That's it. Yeah, precisely.
Awesome. Well, this was great, Thomas. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Sorry about the glitches, but you know, live coding.
No, this is perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
Enjoyed it a lot. Cool. Bye-bye.